going on, everybody? This is the Racket Guru. Yonex was nice enough to send me the Percept 97 and 100 just for me to check them out. And I currently play with the Fury Armor Pro 98, and I have been messing around with the VCore Pros just for fun. And the Percept line is actually supposed to replace those. So what's different about the Percept to the VCore Pro? The VCore Pro has a vibration dampening mesh. It's a little bit softer in the hoop, and the specs are going to be the exact same in the Percept line. The only two things that really changed were it's 30% softer in the throat for the Percept, and instead of vibration dampening mesh, they took that out of the handle and they put a servo filter in there, which is just layers of Yonex's proprietary film wrapped in between all the layers of the racket during production, and it acts as a vibration dampening mesh, so to speak. Very similar, but I do think that the servo filter does offer a bit more feel. Only slightly, though. These rackets are still very dampened and almost muted at certain times, especially the harder you swing, the more it mutes out. These rackets are, respectively, the 97 is 310 grams unstrung, and the 100 is 300 grams unstrung. So with Fury C4 in both of these rackets, both 17 gauge, both strung at 50 pounds, the swing weight jumps up about 20 grams, or the weight jumps up about 20 grams. So you can expect around 330 for the 97 and 320-ish for the 100. The measured specs will be in the description. Now, at the very end of this, there will be kind of like a small conversation between my doubles partner and I about these rackets, if you guys are interested in hearing what other people have to say about it. Now, let's start with the 97. The 97, very stable when it's on the sweet spot. Small sweet spot, but both of these rackets, I can say, are very comfortable. The 100 more so than the 97. So even though it's 30% softer in the throat for both rackets, the 97, after 2 days of playing with it, my arm was getting a little sore, and on impact, it starts to push on your arm a little bit. Maybe these rackets can benefit from being strung a little bit lower, as it felt at 50 pounds. These rackets were a little underpowered. Not so much the 100 as it was the 97. But, for a 97, it's more of a control racket, so I don't really hold the power thing against it. It is a solid feeling racket. The whole racket feels extremely soft. Solid but soft. Not mushy. It's not like the Clash where it feels very noodle-like. But, when you are hitting with this racket, you hit it up higher in the hoop, it is a little bit jarring, as they did stiffen up the hoop. And hitting it towards the bottom, if you're not hitting in the sweet spot, it does get a little bit phased out by that servo filter. Hitting it right in the sweet spot, very sweet, buttery. On ground strokes, no complaints. My favorite shot was probably the backhand, especially with Yonex's longer handles. The two-handed backhand is extremely comfortable. That backhand right there, I hit some of my best backhands with Yonex rackets. Forehands, you do have to rip them a little bit. This racket does allow you to generate a decent amount of spin, but after a while you get tired, and swinging this racket around, it gets really heavy, especially if you're out in the sun and you're in a long match and you're not conditioned for it, especially down south. It's the heat just beats down on you even at 7 in the morning. After a while, if your footwork starts to waver on you, it does make it harder to use the racket. This racket is definitely not for the faint of heart or strokes. For volleys, it is a wonderful racket. Solid, you can stick everything, and the stability actually seems to be less noticeable. Like, the lack of stability seems to be less noticeable on volleys for this racket. And even if you hit it outside the sweet spot, you can still redirect pace, you can still redirect the ball, and you can literally touch every single volley if you wanted to. Every volley was a first hard stick and then a drop volley on the second one. And I gotta say, I absolutely enjoyed volleying with that racket. Serving wise, I did enjoy it. However, I usually have a little bit faster of a swing, but because this racket is a little bit heavier than what I'm used to as far as the swing weight is concerned, swinging it over my head was hard, especially when you're tired. Trying to swing that much weight and try to get that acceleration up is a little difficult. But if you are an advanced player, you're in shape, and you've been playing tennis for a long, long time, this racket is perfect for you. I do recommend this racket. It's very similar to the feel of the Gravity Pro, minus the auxiliary, of course. It is a little bit more dampened than the Gravity Pro, but overall, I do think that this racket is great for advanced players and people that really value that control and are really good about generating their own power. Returns are really unforgiving. I'm just gonna that's my only flaw with it besides being super muted. I do think that returns on the 97 are a bit harsher on you, as when you're trying to swing through that ball and you're trying to time it, all that extra weight, it makes it difficult. I'm not an advanced player myself. I do consider myself to be at least an intermediate or somewhere in between. But I do think that once you find your stride with the rackets on the returns and you found the sweet spot, I think that this is actually more of a weapon than you'd think it would be. You really can't play defense with this racket, though. It does require you to put in a lot of effort on the defensive side, but the touch is there for every single shot. Now we move on to the 100. The 100 is probably my favorite of the two rackets. More comfortable, more forgiving. The racket itself is more spin friendly because it is a little bit more open. However, it's not as solid feeling, but you do feel more pocketing with the 100. And the servo filter doesn't really dampen all that much in the 100, which is strange to me. You'd think same technology, it'd dampen the same way. But I guess it helps that it's a lot lighter, because as I got tired here, it was more of it still felt like a weapon. It still felt like something that you can attack with even when you're tired. It didn't feel like it was going to leave you high and dry with playing defense. I do really enjoy this racket on ground strokes. What's funny is that this racket, I actually preferred forehands over the two-hander. My two-hander felt more solid with the 97, but the forehands just felt like you could rip that ball and you knew it was going to stay in, and it had just enough power to make you dangerous instead of just pushing the ball over. And I think that's what makes this racket special for me. So being able to rip balls like that from the baseline and do whatever you want with it and know it's going to stay in. Even playing with a one-hander, these rackets both felt great. I occasionally play with a one-hander for giggles. Now, I will say that some of the parts of the 100, like volleys, did feel a little less stable than playing with the 97. Serving-wise, both rackets were great. 100 has my preference because you can swing it a whole lot faster. You can generate a lot more spin, and you can swing it a lot faster. You can come through that ball and through contact extremely quickly. And as far as returns are concerned, I do prefer it, as you can hit it off of the sweet spot and still have a chance to put that ball in a place where you're not going to get attacked right off the return. I think that this racket is by far much easier to use. I think that intermediate to advanced players, even if you are an advanced player, you can spec it up to whatever your specs are usually, and I think you would genuinely enjoy this racket. I do recommend this one over the 97 just because it is more versatile, it's more well-rounded, and it does have better feel, in my opinion. Like I said, both these rackets strung at 50 pounds because both of us played a lower tension usually, and we had it both at 17 gauge. Fury C4, great poly. If you guys are interested in more reviews, please feel free to leave a comment, drop a like on the video, and there are going to be some links down below. An affiliate link for Fury, if you guys are interested in checking out their rackets, demoing their rackets, that's down there too. And I also have some other links to my website where I do other reviews, strings, pickleball paddles too, tennis rackets, and I do have clothes. my partner and I will be coming out with pickleball paddles here in the near future, so keep a lookout for those if you're a pickleball player. And if you guys are interested, let me know. All right, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.
Oh wow. So, Brandon, tell me a little bit about how you felt using this racket.
Yeah, so this racket felt pretty good, especially from the baseline. I felt like I was hitting pretty consistently, pretty deep balls with pretty heavy spin, I'd say. I mean, overall, the racket felt great. The only downside, I'd say, is whenever you hit it off center, similar to what you were saying about the 97, it's just pretty unforgiving in that manner, but it's less unforgiving than the 97. I definitely enjoyed this racket a lot more, and yeah.
So would you say that, you know, 'cause he usually plays with a racket that's an extra ½ inch longer. So would you say if this had an extra ½ inch, would you be able to switch to that racket?
If it had an extra ½ inch, I would definitely consider it. I would have to get used to the little bit of difference in swing weight, but other than that, I mean, it felt pretty similar. The feel on this racket was a little less than I'd like. I ran it without a dampener, and it just was a little bit less than I'd like to see. Yeah.
Yeah, and I will have to agree with you. Both these rackets feel very muted with and without a dampener. And I think the servo filter has a lot to do with that. Now, I will also agree with Brandon that the 100 is much more forgiving on off-center shots. This 97, unless you're swinging at full speed the whole entire time and you know you're on top of your game, your footwork is perfect, this racket is going to be very hard to use. Now with the 100, it does get a little bit easier to use because it is 10 grams lighter than this unstrung, and it just feels like this racket has a bigger sweet spot. So off-center shots still have a chance to go over and not leave you hanging high and dry on defense. Playing defense with this racket was great. Volleys were spectacular. I actually do prefer the 97 for volleys, but I prefer the 100 in pretty much every other aspect of the game. Overheads, serves, ground strokes, short balls, even swinging volleys. I do prefer the 100 because it is that much more user-friendly. The 97 does require you to put a little bit more strain on yourself, and I played great with the 97 for the first half, but the second I got tired, I started to notice a very huge decline in the game. Footwork stopped looking good, stopped feeling good, and so did the racket. This, on the other hand, it offers somewhat of a cushion for when you're not playing your best.
Yeah, I would definitely have to agree with Noah. Definitely my preference out of the two would be the 100. Basically, like Noah was saying, the 97 just, it felt good on volleys, but everything else I would definitely prefer the 100 over.